Okay, hi, this is Jason Scott, and I have a couple questions for some TDs on how to automate your own setup. Now, this is my experimentation and my first foray into actually using Mel to automate my rigging setup. And the reason why I want to get this is because I've used some auto rigging scripts. Primarily, like I said, I'm a character animator. But I have come up with some rigging solutions that I like and a way that I like to set my characters up, and I've gotten kind of spoiled because I enjoy using my own personal setups. The problem is, now that my rigging skills have gotten more advanced, the setups are generally taking like 3 to 4 days to get a character ready. And it's really annoying when I know exactly what I want to do, but I gotta sit there and spend 2 days doing it. Just to get the rig working. So to kind of expedite that process, I've seen a lot of people can automate extremely complex rigging concepts, and a lot of what I want to do is not all that complex as far as automating, but it's not working too well, and because I don't fully understand the Mel language, it's difficult for me to really work with it. I kind of look at it as a foreign language. So let's say it's Spanish, and I've taken maybe Spanish 1. So basically, I'm thinking that since I don't fully understand the language, I understand a few little terms. Without being able to speak it fluently, it's very difficult to say what I want to say. And when I talk to TDs, there's not a lot of instruction that I've found on how to automate your own rig setup. I mean, there is a book on how to automate a rig, but it's very specific and it's very complex. So one of the things they told me was when you're first starting out learning how to automate your setups, try making your setup, do whatever it is you want to do, and then look up here and copy what you see and paste it into the actual script editor so that you can figure out how to, how what you're doing is working under the hood. And I've started looking up into the different kinds of variables and things like that. So I'm going to show you guys the script really quick, and then I'm going to ask you some basic questions on why this is not working, because this is not working properly. It will work if I select it in chunks, but I can't get it to work like, you select the whole thing, make it a button, click it, and bang, there's my arm. Okay, so this is my arm setup. We start off by creating some arm joints. You're setting up your joint positions. Now this is one issue I'm having. Automatically, when I set this up, I have to have everything named perfectly. So if this was, for instance, if I were to set up this after I had already set something else up and there was another joint one, this whole thing would break. Now I've seen scripts where you can run your own script or you can do another thing and have, these names don't matter. This joint 1, joint 2, joint 3 doesn't have to be named that. It could be named anything, and when it creates it, it will automatically name it something, whatever it needs to be named for the script to work. Well, that doesn't work here, so I have to make sure that it's a blank, empty scene before I even run this, or it won't work. Rename your joints. Of course, I use the little tags here so that I don't, compute it. So we have where we rename everything to the left shoulder, left elbow, wrist, palm. Then we have building the IK setup. You're selecting the shoulder, rotate, pivot. Now, I don't know if this is the simplest way to tell Maya to do this through Mel, but this is what this thing said when I actually went to IK, popped the IK on the shoulder and the wrist, and that's what ended up happening. And then I did rename the IK handle to left arm IKRP, and that's what I usually do. So that's what the script up here did. Create the IK control. I don't know if this is correct or not, but when I created a basic IK control, I went and I used the curves and moved the CVs, which is what that is. Make identity, apply true is of course freeze transforms. I grouped the objects because I always use group freezing, and then I selected the wrist and I parented it. I selected the group and I zeroed out that entire group, and then I unparented it. And what that does is it moves it to the exact position of the wrist, and then when you unparent it, it has the exact orientation that you want, similar to the point constraint method, but I use parenting. Rename the group. Now here's another issue. It says rename curve 1 to left wrist control. If I were to have another curve set up that says curve 1, 2, or 3, it wouldn't work. It has to say curve 1 or the entire script breaks. So this is a very finicky script. Alright, rename group 1. Again, if the group 1 says group 2 or group 3 or there's another group 1, this will break. Left wrist control group. And then you say, okay, make the IK attribute blending thing, because we're going to want an IK-FK twist or blend thing. So you select the control. It doesn't like this select -R. Anything I do where it says select, it seems to break very quickly, and I don't understand why. But you'll see what I'm talking about. I say add adder, long name, IK to FK switch, -default value 0, max value 1, minimum value 0, keyable true. So that means that it's going to be inside my channel box. I'm pretty sure that's how that should be written. Connect the control to the IK handle. Here we have select the control, and then you have select the left arm IKRP, and then you have select the wrist control, and then you parent. So what that's actually doing is saying I want you to select the IKRP and parent it to the wrist control. And then when we get to make pole vector, it can handle this as well, and I create some text curves called LE. And then I select the curve 2 and 3, and I shift and I parent them to curve 1. Then I freeze their transformations. Now again, if these are named anything but curve 2, 3, and 1, the whole thing breaks, which again makes this very unstable. Now, when you freeze your transformations, you pick walk down, and you end up getting the shape nodes of curve 2 and 3. So then you parent that to curve 1's transform node, and let's see. Right, okay. Then you run the parent -R-S thing. Yeah. So you parent the shape nodes, or you take the shape nodes and you select the transform node, and you do parent -R-S. I don't even know what that means. I just know to do that, and it works. And then what that actually does is it parents the shape nodes directly under the transform node. So whenever you select the curve 1, you do so by selecting anything. So if you select anywhere on LE, it will select curve 1, and that allows me to take multiple curve parts and put it under one transform node. And that's all that really is. Okay, and then you select curve 1 and you parent it, or shift parent it, so that it comes out of the little text group there. Center the pivot, freeze the transformations, group it, center the pivot on that, and then you rename the, again, this has to not screw up, and it does. This is where it will break, and you'll see why. Rename curve 1 left arm PV, rename group 1 left arm PV group. Okay, delete the empty text group, select the text, delete it. I don't even know if that's how you delete something, but that's what it's set up here, do delete. And then position the PV. You select the left arm PV group. You move what, I don't know what that RPR is, these different coordinates. I tried parenting it to the elbow and unpairing it and moving it backwards, and that didn't work. So I moved it the exact coordinates that it needed to, which again will break if I run this IK-FK or this ARM script when I need it, if the ARM skeleton is a little bit higher. This whole thing will break if I need the thing to be like way up here. It's only going to be exactly where I put it because I'm using world space coordinates, so that also breaks. I've seen other scripts where you can just click it and tell it to go, you know, here, 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 and it's based on a locator position. But I have no idea how to set that up, where you have like initial locators and that's going to choose where your joints are. I have no idea how they did that. Okay, then you have select the CL curve, select the left arm PV, select the arm IKRP, set the pole vector up, put the 0 to 1. Okay, so that will set up our arm setup so that we have a basic IK arm with the pole vector the way I want, with the left E, and it will set up all the naming conventions I want, and it will get me all the way to the pole vector. So if I hit Control A, hit Enter, you will notice that it creates my shoulder, creates my left wrist IK control group, all that's good and stuff. Now, notice that it did not delete the text here, and it did not delete this, and this says group 1 and curve 1. Now, here's what's really interesting. You see how we have error, no object matches name, rename? This is what confuses me, because if I go here and just select this portion here. I haven't changed anything. I haven't retyped anything. Alright, we just finished with center the pivot on the X form. Alright, so we created the pole vector. Let's see, and we did the curve trick, and that worked. As you can see, I select anywhere on the pole vector, it works. Okay. Then we just, center the pivot on the actual group, and we're good to go. Okay, we grouped it, center the pivot on the group, and we're fine. The group position here, this is the curve, and then the group here is right here. It still says group 1. So there's, but I haven't retyped anything. All I'm going to do is just select just this chunk, and when I hit enter, it works. That is what is confusing the heck out of me, because I could somewhat clunk my way through this. It'd be a really ugly script, but if this worked, I could just create my really complex setup, and as I do so, just take little chunks and pieces and copy paste this from here to here. But that's not working, because as you guys can see, since it's not that simple, I'm going to need some help if I'm going to pull this off, because I don't see an issue here. All I did was select this chunk separately, right? So why would this work completely? I mean, the pole vector sets up, the grouping thing sets up, we delete the groups we don't want, the IK is working perfectly. I mean, I just don't understand why that is. So I'll show you the problem again. I delete this, alright, I select the whole thing, hit enter, and then I just select from rename onwards, hit enter, and I have to select both of those chunks for this to work. And I don't understand why that is. Why it just kind of goes through the whole operation, and then when it gets to rename curve 1, it just breaks. And then it makes me do it over again, and then it works. If it was broken and something was wrong in the code, I don't understand why it works when you select it by itself. So I'm sure there's a reason for this, and it's a basic reason. But again, I know nothing about mel scripting. I'm a pretty good rigger in terms of outside the realm of scripting. I've gotten to some pretty advanced stuff with groups and working with transform matrix nodes and things like that. But I'm trying to automate my setup because I think that's going to save a lot of time. It's going to let me focus more on my animation. But at the same time, I'm running into some pretty big snags. So this is a big one. If I can get over this, if I can figure out how to take this and make it work here so that I can select this giant one big script and just hit enter and it makes my arm for me, that would make it so much easier for me to rig. So I really appreciate it if you guys could explain to me why or even how that's possible, where the script works. Obviously everything in here is valid because if I select the two different pieces, it builds it from scratch. But for whatever reason, I can't select it one time and then work, because that makes it very difficult to make this a button. So for instance, if I were to hit Control A and I were to drag this up here and make a mel button, when I do this, notice it puts it here. And I can't just select this portion here unless I were to take this and make another button. Because if I hit the button again, notice that all it did was just redo the arm setup, and I don't want to do that. So it makes it impossible for me to set this whole thing, make it a button, and go arm. And that is what ultimately I would like to do. I'd like to have a shelf called rigging and have it called arm setup, leg setup, spine setup, head setup. And that would make things, much easier for me. But to get to that point, I need to figure out why this is doing that so that I can actually take this and put it in here. Because I know how to set all this stuff up manually. I'm just trying to figure out how to get Maya to automate it. Okay? I thank you. I really appreciate the help, and I hope you guys have a great day.